From Chicago streets to the courts beat, Sal, Scott, Dan on the podcast seat. Bulls breaking news, talking stats and views. Every player, every play, we never lose. Horns over hoops, we're the Bulls troop. From game analysis to fan scoop.
What's good, Bulls fans and Horniacs, and welcome back to another edition to the Horns Over Hoops podcast. We are your hosts for the evening, Sal-Bass and Scott Berman. Dan Gracie is out for the evening on a personal issue, so let's jump right into it here. Scott Berman, have you finished crying yet?
That's actually the reason Dan's not here. He has not stopped crying since, and he cannot be seen in public, so he's just too big of a mess. But no, yeah. We knew it was coming. Derrick retired. His career's been kind of on a downhill for the last couple of years. I don't even remember how many games he actually played last year, so it couldn't have been more than like 15 or 20. So it's like, we knew it was coming, especially because Josh should be back this year, I think.
Yep, maybe.
So
we'll see.
Well, I don't know how long, but
yeah. So of course, Scott Berman's alluding to the theme of today's episode, and that is because Derrick Rose announced his retirement a few days ago. We felt that it was only just to pay an entire episode to what we believe was not only one of the greatest Bulls to ever put on a uniform, but definitely one of the best NBA point guards to ever grace the court in Derrick Rose. We'll go through what he meant to us personally, what he brought to the organization, the city, and just some of his highlights. We're also going to break down some of his best moments. We'll break down his actual retirement, his Hall of Fame calibracy. We got some Horniac questions. We love those. A Horns more, and we're going to play some Horns or Thorns. So whenever you're ready, let's just jump right into it. Scott Berman, after a year in Memphis, Derrick Rose asked the Memphis organization to waive him, leaving his contract on the table, and he had a video, a very cryptic video, where he kind of alluded to something that nobody really knew what he was talking about. Everyone was speculating that he was going to announce his retirement, and then later on the next day he hung up the jersey for good. So, what do you think of the way he retired? Okay, because every big star retires differently. Some do the farewell tour, some do the traded back to the home team and spend a year and leave. But what did you think of Derrick's actual retirement, how he went about it?
It seemed like he had it planned out. Like he knew his career was over. It wasn't like he was, like you said, I didn't even know he actually asked to be waived by the Grizzlies. But if that's the case, he was just ready to hang it up. I'm kind of glad he didn't do a farewell tour, because it's hard to do when you're not anywhere near what you used to be. And he's not the type of guy that would want that. He's such I just want to do my own thing. I don't need to be celebrated, all that kind of thing. So he went on his own terms. I loved that he took out a full-page ad in every city that he played in their newspaper, thanking the fans for what they meant to him and how much they cared.
Yeah.
And it was, I think he did it the right way.
Yeah.
Once that message came out, once he was cut, everybody was like, oh, he's going to retire. Like, what's next? Is anybody going to actually pick him up? And then there was that cryptic message, and it's like, oh yeah, he's done.
Yeah. At first, when I saw that, when he has to be waived, I'm like every other Chicago Bulls fan, whenever Derrick Rose is a free agent, it's always like, oh, he's coming back. He's coming back to Chicago. And it was 50-50. I saw a lot of people say that he was retiring, and I saw a lot of people saying, oh, he's going to come do one more year in Chicago and then hang it up after the year. Not necessarily like a little farewell tour, but just kind of a, hey, one last hoorah in the city that made him. which either outcome I would have been absolutely fine with. Just how much respect and love I have for Derrick Rose. As far as his retirement goes, I think that it was perfect. I think he did it absolutely perfect. Very calm, very low key, very demure. We'll use the demure. Everyone's using demure now. And it was a direct reflection of the player and character that Derrick Rose is. As we know, Derrick Rose was never one for showboating. He was never one for extracurricular antics. Derrick Rose was the most humble superstar that you'll ever see. Maybe like we were talking about the other day, like outside of Derrick Rose, who was the humble superstar that was an elite player, but was never one to be like cocky, showboaty. And the only one I could think of was like Tim Duncan. Tim Duncan was
the man right behind your shoulder, man.
Who?
Yeah, other side. Tim Duncan on the other side of you.
Oh yeah. He's actually featured in the photo right there. Yeah. So, I absolutely loved it because I don't really care for those farewell tours. I mean, it's cool and all, but at the same time, Derrick was never like that. And that's one of the reasons why I had the utmost respect for him, was because I'm not a big fan of showboaty, cocky superstars. I don't know. Maybe it's just who I am, but like Derrick Rose being humble is what made him special to us, because not only was he the hometown hero, drafted number 1 overall to his hometown and just the elite player that he was, but he did it while being humble and giving back to his community. And that's why I will say to this day, the Bulls organization will never see another player as special and as impactful as Derrick Rose. So I couldn't have asked for anything more. What I could have asked for now, and that's alluding into our second segment here, is the Bulls did not offer him a one-day contract to retire as part of the team. As you know, they did it for Luol Deng and they did it for Joakim Noah, but the Bulls elected not to do that for Derrick Rose for reasons. However, I want to ask your opinion of if that reason was, I don't know what's the right word here. If it's, I don't know, was it justified? How about that? So do you know why they didn't sign him to the one day?
They didn't have roster space.
Correct. Yeah. As you know, they had 21 spots, but a lot of those spots were non-guaranteed. So go ahead and give your opinion on that.
Really, it's a dick move cutting someone. Like, how mad would you be if you were like an undrafted player? Like, perfect example, Damascus. He's undrafted out of Illinois. It's my guy out of Illinois. He killed it. I liked him. But how pissed would you have been if you're with this team, you're about to get your chance, and they're like, hey, we need to cut you because a guy's retiring. So it's like a dick move to just like, you're ready to start summer or preseason.
Yep.
Training camp and get ready for all that. And they're like, just kidding. You're off the team. We need to get a guy for one day. So it's like a dick move. And it's not like the Bulls can re-sign him because you waive him. He has to go through waivers. He may have to go to a different team. So it's like, I understand why they didn't do it. I wish the NBA would just say, hey, you don't actually have to use a roster spot for a one-day contract.
Yes.
Because it's a ceremonial thing. But
yes.
So I see both sides. I just think they really need to do the one-day contract ceremonial thing.
Yeah. Yeah. And honestly speaking, like you mentioned it, even if the Bulls would have cut somebody, I don't think Derrick himself would have let that happen. I think he would have been like, look, I don't want that. Look, I love the city. Whatever you guys do to pay my tribute, do or don't for that matter, is fine with me. But to kind of hinder a young player's career, he wouldn't be for that. At least I don't want to speak for him, but just based on his character, he would have been like, that's not right. That doesn't sit well in my book. I'd rather go out the way I want to go out. If I don't retire for you, that's fine. The city of Chicago knows the impact that I had on it, and that's justified for me. So kind of a good class act for Derrick in that matter. But speaking of ceremonials, we'll just call it. What do you think you can anticipate as far as like a ceremonial goodbye, thank you, Derrick Rose next season, this coming up season?
The Bulls are going to be like 5-30, Jerry's going to see that no one's coming to the stadium. He's going to be like, oh, the perfect time to retire Derrick's jersey.
Yeah.
No,
yeah.
But I hope that's not the case. I hope they actually have it planned out. But they really, him and Noah should have both their jerseys should be retired.
Yep.
They should do it same night.
Yeah.
Yeah. But really the smart thing to do, Knicks are in town.
Yep. January 4th.
Have it with Tibbs.
Yep.
Just that's when they do it. Even if it's not this year, maybe he wants to just kind of step away for a bit.
Yeah.
At some point, it's bound to happen. You have to retire his jersey.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's a great point because the New York Knicks, not only did Derrick play for the Knicks, but so did Noah. As you know, I think that was the trade that happened. We traded Noah and Derrick to the Knicks, and those were probably two of the most pivotal players at their position in Chicago Bulls history. So what better way to honor them than to honor them both together on the same night against their former team, against their former coach, and really share the limelight. I also think that Derrick would appreciate that because, again, he's not one for me. You know, he loved those guys. That trio of Dang, Noah, and Derrick. If Luol Deng would have probably been more impactful, so to speak, I feel like his jersey, and they could have honored all three of them, because outside of Michael Jordan, Dennis Rodman, and Scottie Pippen, I feel like the next biggest big three that the Chicago Bulls have had would be Derrick Rose, Joakim Noah, and Luol Deng. So that would have been an excellent way to honor them all together and really say thank you for what you did for the city of Chicago in the 2010s. I'm really hoping that it's not a Ring of Honor / whatever debacle was last year, and I hope they get a game. I was checking out tickets for that New York Knicks game, and just to sit in the first 100 section is around $400. So I'm assuming that a lot of fans were thinking like we were, and the first time the Knicks come into town, so they're snatching up those tickets and trying to make a buck off of them. So, and a lot of fans, I'll touch on this really quick, just because a lot of fans were saying it was a sad day when Derrick retired. It's not a sad day. I can understand why you're sad, but it's a beautiful thing. Derrick Rose impacted the city, like I said, like some of us have never seen. For those of us who didn't watch the Jordan era, Derrick Rose was our Michael Jordan. Okay, I watched the Michael Jordan era, but I was mainly following in my fullest when Derrick was around. And for people to say it's a sad day, it's not a sad day. The man, despite all of his injuries and all of his setbacks, managed to play 15 seasons in the NBA, and he was just the guy that he was on the Bulls from day one was the guy he was when he retired. I can understand why he'd be sad because it's a player that you love retiring, but it's more of a congratulations. Like, it's a bittersweet day. You hate to see him go, but you have to appreciate that the man is ready to move on to the next level of his career. What do you think about that?
Yeah, like he went on his own terms. Well,
yep. More or less.
Even in his video, or I think it was his write-up, he said that he went out like he wanted. If he had a choice to change anything, he doesn't think he would. So he's happy with his career. Obviously, he's kind of just saying that because he would have loved to keep playing at the level he was before the ACL tears and not have to deal with all that. But you know what?
Yeah.
He came back and was able to play for 15 years. A guy that missed basically 3 seasons with injuries was able to stay in the league for that long. That's impressive.
Yeah. And it all goes back to, like, you remember, like, Vince Carter. Vince Carter had a terrible injury. He used to be one of the most athletic people that has ever graced the earth. And then he had that injury, that setback. But what he did was he altered his game, and he managed to stay in the league for over 20 years. So Derrick did exactly that. Once the high flying and all the Showtime plays were done and over with, he found a way to make an impact another way. And that's being a really good point guard. He was still smart on the court. He was still a tremendous ball distributor. And that layup was still money. It may not have been as athletic, but he still found his way to get to the cup. Of course, as you remember, after all the injuries he had with us, he went on to Minnesota, which was one of his later teams, and managed to put up a 52-point game. I mean, he was still Derrick Rose, but he wasn't Showtime Derrick Rose. But he was still a tremendous player despite all those injuries. There's players that one knee injury and they're done. You know what I mean? Of course, you get I call them the freaks of natures or the anomalies, like your Russell Westbrook, where, you have knee surgery after knee surgery and you're still as athletic and as gifted as you are. That goes without being said. But for Derrick Rose to survive all those injuries and still manage to stay in the league 15 years, that's special. He could have just as easily had a Brandon Roy or a Greg Oden experience where you're in the league for a couple of years, you get hurt and you're done. You know what I mean? So I know we alluded to this earlier, but top question I saw on Twitter is, should the Bulls retire Derrick Rose's jersey? I know you said they should, but I'll go ahead and let you explain that. Do you think 100% that Derrick Rose jersey will be retired? Not should, will be.
Yes, for two reasons. One, Jerry's going to use it to get people in the stadium. As bad as it sounds, he's thinking more about, I can make money off this. Yeah, I'm going to do it. But the perfect example, or you brought it up actually earlier, he was the transition for Bulls fans between the Jordan era through the Baby Bulls to it brought fans back. Like, that was the reason that I started watching basketball. It was the reason Dan started watching basketball.
Yep.
How often do you go on like Instagram or TikTok and you see videos of, they're like, hey, go ask your boyfriend about prime Derrick Rose. And then it's just like, they stop and they're like, let me tell you about prime Derrick Rose.
Yeah.
Like, everybody knew Derrick Rose. They knew how good he was. They knew how much of a monster he was. You know who the only person to stop him was? LeBron James. Yep. They had to put a 6'9" freak of nature, LeBron James, on him.
Yeah.
And guess what? He still played decently well.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, you had to put the best player on earth on Derrick Rose.
Yeah. And he still found a way to get his.
Yeah.
That's the thing. Like, and I'll admit this, like, I don't care. I still watch Derrick Rose highlights to this day. I still will watch his compilation videos. I'll still watch all of his career highlights, and my jaw will still be dropped as much as it was when I watched it during the game. Like, to this day, Derrick Rose, for me, I can watch his highlight videos. Like, we all have that one movie growing up as a kid that you can watch over and over and over again and never gets old. For me, that's Derrick Rose highlights. I can literally watch Derrick Rose highlights all day and be happy. I'll admit it. I shed a tear when I heard he retired. I was devastated when he got traded to the Knicks. I cried that day. I literally cried. 29-year-old man, or however old I was in my 20s, cried when he got traded. It was actually funny because the day we found out he got traded, we were all texting in our group chat here, and I went to hang out with Dan that day, and we just sat there and played 2K at his house all day, taking turns who gets to be the Bulls and to play with Derrick Rose that day. And it was special. He was one of the greatest players to ever put on a Bulls jersey. I think absolutely.
To jump back to your question about the other reason why, can you name a player that left the Bulls and every time he comes back, the fans are excited? The fans come and see him just because he's back. He meant so much to Chicago, and there's no way you can't retire his jersey.
Yeah.
The guy won an MVP in Chicago.
Yeah. Youngest to ever do it at 22 years old.
Yes, they're going to retire his jersey.
Yeah. The only other player I can think of that whenever he comes to town, the fans go nuts would have been Joakim Noah. Joakim and Derrick were like, peas in a pod. They're beloved Chicago. They're Chicagoans through in and throughout. You know what I mean? So yeah, I'm with you. I think they retire his jersey. I don't know when they do it. I don't care. As long as they do it, give the man his flowers. No pun intended, but let the man have his name in the rafters so that every time he comes to Chicago and watches a game, he can look up in those rafters. And even if he doesn't see a championship with his name on it, he does see a number and his last name hanging up in the most historic buildings in the Chicago area. So now,
one other thing.
Yeah.
So the Bulls, this was years ago, got Anthony Morrow and Michael Carter-Williams. Both players changed their number because they refused to wear number 1 in Chicago.
Yeah. Yeah.
So if the players aren't going to wear the number, there's no reason why you wouldn't. It's just, you have to.
If I'm not, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. I think I remember hearing like there was some players getting like threats that if they picked number 1,
Anthony Morrow.
Yeah. Anthony.
He
Morrow
was planning on doing it, and he literally heard from the fans, "Do not wear number 1 because you aren't Derrick Rose."
Yeah. And if you can think of another player to wear a particular number that is just synonymous with that number, it would be 2 other people, Wayne Gretzky and Michael Jordan. Nobody, 23, everyone wore 23 to be like Mike. To this day, if you wear 23, it's not because you were assigned that number. You picked that number. And the reason why you picked that number was Michael Jordan. So absolutely. Why shouldn't you retire the greatest point guard in Chicago Bulls history? And arguably, had he not gotten hurt, a top 5 point guard in NBA history. We'll just say that. I'll make that bold prediction. But moving on to our next question, and this is the one where I saw a lot of 50-50 on it, and from Bulls fans and from other fans included. And that was, did Derrick Rose accomplish enough and have enough success in his career to achieve the Hall of Fame status? I'll let you answer that one first.
Yes, because everybody says, "Oh, the Hall of Fame, NBA stats." It is the Naismith Basketball Hall of Fame. They take your whole basketball career. He is a 2-time high school champion. He brought Simeon he won the first championship in Simeon since the 80s. He won it back-to-back years. He was a McDonald's All-American. He was named like the 3rd best high school point guard in the 2000 decade by ESPN. How do you not count that in there? Like, he was, I think he lost like 4 games his whole high school career. Yeah. So you got to bring that in. He went to Memphis. They went to the national championship. I don't know if they're going to count that because the whole thing where he didn't actually take his SAT and they had to pull all that.
Yeah.
But if you count that, he was absolutely ridiculous in college. So kind of funny about his college is, so there was 2 other players on his team that were kind of, those were the guys. Let me see if I can find their names. Where the heck are they? Joey Dorsey and Chris Douglas Roberts. Those were kind of the upperclassmen seniors. So Derrick kind of let them run the team. And in the tournament, he was basically told, "Hey, stop taking a back seat and go take over." And they ran through everybody. He was averaging like 25 points a game or something like that. He went from like 14 to like 25.
Yeah.
He did miss that last free throw to lose the championship, but we won't talk about that.
Yeah. What was it? And then when he was in Memphis, who was on that team that he lost the national championship to? Was that Mario Chalmers?
Yep.
Mario Chalmers. Yeah. I remember.
Against Kansas. Yeah.
Yep. So yeah. And of course we all remember, speaking of high school, we all remember that historic game. No one ever watches high school basketball, but everyone watched that that incredible game that he had with Eric Gordon, another Chicago, I don't want to say native, but he was almost, speaking of Eric Gordon, he was almost a U of I player too, right?
Fuck Eric Gordon. As an Illinois fan, fuck Eric Gordon, okay? This is something I'm going to say. Eric Gordon verbally committed to U of I. And Derrick Rose was going to go to U of I with Eric Gordon. That was the plan. Eric Gordon randomly decommitted and committed to Indiana. That's why Derrick Rose did not go to Illinois and went to Memphis. Fuck Eric Gordon.
Yeah, could just
I don't think you understand how much he pisses me off. Like, you could have had Eric Gordon and Derrick Rose at Illinois. Yeah. That team wins a national championship. That team is ridiculous.
Yeah. Probably a couple of them too.
He went to fucking Indiana. Fucking God. Oh my God. Eric Gordon, man.
Yeah. You know what's messed up is that could have even added, like, not like Derrick Rose needed more to add to his Cinderella story, but could you imagine born in Chicago, raised in Chicago, high school in Chicago, and college in Chicago, then go playing for your Illinois, professional team? My goodness, man.
Yeah.
Like, that would have been insane. But yeah, Eric Gordon had to, what's messed up is then, like, as a pro, I actually like Eric Gordon only because he was another one of those Courtney Lee, Marcus Thornton, Monte Ellis players that I used all the time in 2K because Eric Gordon's shot was just insanely easy to use. But all that aside, yeah, I'm 100% in agreement with you. Like, Derrick Rose 100% deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. You listed some of his accolades. I'm going to list just his career highlights.
I just listed his before NBA highlights.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Oh yeah, Mr. Basketball in Illinois. That's another one he got.
Yeah, 2007, Mr. Basketball. I mean,
and then all his NBA ones where he got 3-time All-Star, Rookie of the Year, youngest MVP ever.
Yep.
Like,
NBA first team in 2011.
Two gold medals from FIBA.
Yep. And then career highlights of 17.4 points a game, 3.2 rebounds, and 5 assists. I mean, those are solid numbers.
Yeah, and you got to remember, like, that was the era when games went to 80.
Yeah.
Went to, like, you didn't break 100.
Right.
Well, I sent you guys that highlight the other day where it was like Derrick Rose took over the game. The Bulls had like 30 points with 3 minutes left in the second or the third. And I was like, how?
Yeah. Well, that just goes to show you, like, how quickly the game evolved, because Tibbs was all about defense, and it wasn't just because he enjoyed defenses. That was what the game was. It was defense, because back then you didn't have people pulling up from 40 feet to take a three. You had people. The big thing was driving the cup and little mid-range shots. Posting up was still big. And that's just like the bread and butter of basketball. I wish the league would shift back into that, but unfortunately, I don't foresee that happening. But yeah, you're absolutely right. We didn't have those high scoring games like we do now. Everything was low scoring. So when you see somebody averaging 20 points, 22 points, if you got a 30 piece, that was almost as insane as scoring 50 points, just because you didn't see that. Now a player scores 35 points and it's just, that's average. Like, you should be doing that, which no, Derrick Rose had many games where he had 40 points and 11, 12 assists. So not only was he scoring, he was dishing the ball off. So that just goes to show you how good he was at the game, and I'm going to bring it up another reason, because I'm agree with you. I think that not only is he in the Hall of Fame, he's a first ballot unanimous decision. And it's because you said it earlier. How did you stop Derrick Rose? You put LeBron James on him. I know they were saying the Bulls couldn't make it past LeBron James. LeBron James stopped the Bulls from winning a championship. But if you look at it on the other side of the coin, Derrick Rose was needed to be stopped by LeBron James. Because if there was no LeBron James, let's say he didn't go to Miami and he just went to the West right away, we're in the Eastern Conference Finals a few times, because There was that one time. Then there was the Cleveland, which I really think that Cleveland series we could have won it. Who was the coach that called? Was it David Blatt that called the phantom timeout that nobody saw it? Okay.
Yeah.
He called the phantom timeout when he had no timeouts left. And as everybody knows in the league, that's a technical foul. You call a timeout with no fouls left, that's technical foul. One free throw, sideline, out of bounds. Had the referee had picked that up, we would have been up 3-1. And then because as you know, that game ended up being with that miraculous LeBron James buzzer beater to end the game. We're up 3-1. I'm almost positive the Bulls clear that series out and move on to I don't want to say win a championship, but we definitely go to the Eastern Conference Finals. The year that he was at his MVP level, the only team to stop him was the biggest super team to ever grace the NBA in the Miami Heat with LeBron, Dwayne, and Chris Bosh, as well as a bunch of players who literally just took pay cuts, like a bunch of NBA legends to take pay cuts. Like if you look at that Miami Heat team now, you could have just as easily said that was the All-Star team. And the Bulls put up a fight against them. So absolutely, I think that if he does not make the Hall of Fame, it's an absolute travesty. And I think that somebody needs to be fired if he's not a first ballot Hall of Famer this year. So, all right. Well, moving on to our next topic here. We're going to bring back everybody's favorite game here. Horns or Thorns, Scott. Horns or Thorns. We're going to make this the Derrick Rose themed Horns or Thorns episode, of course. So our first question for Horns of Thorns is, Scott, Derrick Rose would have gone down as the most explosive and talented point guard of all time had he not get injured. Horns or Thorns?
I don't know. Are you saying best point guard or just like
no, not necessarily best, but like the most athletic, explosive, like entertaining, talented wise, just had the biggest NBA purse.
I just feel like he would never get to, like, him and Steph are kind of like 1-1. Like Steph was so exciting. I'm going to say Horns because we saw what happened, how big Westbrook got, and he was better than Westbrook.
Yeah.
And he was so ridiculous. His layup package was unstoppable. Like, the guy he wasn't known for dunking, and his dunks were crazy. Like, we'd be lucky to see like 2 dunks a game, and they were all great. But his layups were so ridiculous. He was all about the floater and just the like up and under layup package of just like going around people. It was ridiculous. So
yeah,
I'm going to say Horns. I just don't think Steph was just it was like right after Derrick Rose, Steph just took off.
Yeah.
So
yeah, of course, like if you were lucky enough to watch the NBA in the mid 2000s, you know who Allen Iverson is. You saw what Allen Iverson brought to the game. That was speed. That was layups. That was a problem back then. People had a problem guarding Iverson back then. And Iverson was, he said he's 6 foot, but he's even shorter than that, and now you have a guy that is an upgraded Allen Iverson, faster than Allen Iverson, more athletic than Allen Iverson. That up and under, it was an upgraded up and under to this day that, everyone tried to mimic the up and under, like everyone wanted to be like Mike, but in the 2010s, everybody wanted to be like Rose. Plain and simple.
That floater became something that every player was trying to do. And even like right before his injury, he started shooting threes. He started getting a lot better, just like Jordan did, where he was like, okay, I can drive and all that, and I can shoot mid-range. I'm going to start doing the three. That was something he started working on.
Yeah. Yeah. I think to this day, the 2 biggest shots, I don't really want to say in NBA history, but the 2 biggest styles of shot that were the most infamous would be Jordan's turnaround fade and Derrick Rose's up and under layups. Those are the most famous shots in the game, in my opinion, So yeah, I agree. Horns with that one. All right. Number 2.
You can't most famous shots like in history.
You're gonna say Noah's little fucking cyclone shot?
What? No. What are you trying to say? Like
style, like style.
Oh, okay. I was about to say there's some pretty big shots. Like I was about like
Sean
that.
Marion.
No, I thought you were talking about like big moment type shots.
Oh no. Like style
Okay.
of shooting. Like the up and under are always is one, and then Jordan's. People still do that to this day. The three back downs, turnaround fade, the Jordan shot.
Yep.
Yeah. There's no two like key shots that stick out than those two.
Yeah. Okay. I was about to say that Ray Allen 3 to win it, or that Kawhi Leonard falling into the like out of bounds to win the championship.
Yeah, that rattled around that basically ended Philly's playoff run. Yeah. And speaking of floater, before we move on, one of my favorite shots that Derrick Rose ever took was when he hit that 3-point floater on Monte Ellis against the Dallas Mavericks to send it in. I
forgot he did that. Yes,
that was absolutely insane because, as you know, I think you guys were both at my house watching that game, and that was when Monte Ellis was on Dallas, and that was a cool game because I was a big fan of Monte Ellis, still am, and of course I'm the biggest fan of Derrick Rose, and they had a little scoring battle back and forth. I think Dallas ended up going on to take that game in overtime, but just the insane shot by Derrick Rose, one-handed floater from beyond the 3-point line to send it into overtime. It was like every Chicago fan's dream. Like it was insane. I've screamed at the TV so many times because of Derrick Rose. So, all right, moving on. This question is, the Chicago Bulls would have won 3 more NBA titles if he had never gotten injured.
I'm going to say Thorns.
Okay.
Because that Heat team was so good. And I just don't think we had it. I don't know, because if Derrick Rose doesn't get injured, does Jimmy Butler come out?
Good point.
It's hard. I don't think we win 3. I think we win at least 1.
At least 1.
And I think the year he got hurt is the year we win it.
Okay. Yeah. That was the year that everyone that they were the favorites to win the title over LeBron James. So yeah, I agree with that. I will segue and I say, I do think that the year that he got hurt, we win, but I also think that the year that, like, and again, we're talking about if he had never gotten injured, I do think the year that LeBron beat us and the Cavs, because the Cavs later on went on to win the NBA title that year. I do think that if Derrick had never gotten hurt, that he would have had enough gas in his tank, or enough, how do we put it, enough juice to propel us over that. Because that was a year that, Derrick was a big piece of our offense, but we relied a lot more on other players. Whereas in other years, our strategy would be play through Derrick Rose. In the 2015, 2016 year, I feel like we did play through other players more than Derrick Rose, your Jimmy Butler, your Pau Gasol, your role players. So I do think we would have at least won 2. Now, who knows if winning that first one, we get bigger players and more players, and we would have just been a dynasty on our own. Who knows? But for sure, I'm with you. We at least win 1 or 2. So question number 3. This is one that hits a little close to me because we mentioned it earlier. I'm still pissed about this to this day, but question 3, horns or thorns? The Chicago Bulls gave up on Rose too quickly when they traded him.
I'm going to say thorns. They wanted Jimmy Butler to run the team. And at that moment, Derrick was the uncertainty. Like, how many back-to-back games could he play? He's kind of, him and Zach LaVine he's basically what Zach LaVine is right now.
Yeah.
Where it's like, we know he's a good player, but can he play back-to-back games? How many, is he going to stay healthy? Like, there's so many questions, and then you have a budding superstar in Jimmy Butler.
Yep.
And like, are you ready to hand the team over to him? So that's what they did. Jimmy Butler turned out to be an asshole.
Yeah.
And ruin the locker room and piss off the whole organization.
Yep.
So it didn't fully work out.
Yep.
But I think it was kind of time to move on, and it let him go somewhere where he didn't have to. He wasn't the main focus, where he went to. Well, he kind of was with the Knicks. But when he went to Minnesota, he was kind of just there. He got to do his own thing.
Yeah.
When he went to Detroit, I think that was the best situation that he went to, was Detroit, when he got to come off the bench and with Blake Griffin, and he was perfect for that team.
Yeah.
But I think they had to move on, just because you had to see what was up with Jimmy, and they didn't work enough well together.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it was, I mean, even if it's not out in the open, and even if you don't get one of the two, Jimmy or Derrick, to admit it, Bulls fans knew there was tension between those two. Bulls fans knew that Jimmy is a cocky dude. Like, and I'm gonna segue here for a minute, because I apologize to my brother, who I'm sure is listening, because my brother was the biggest Jimmy Butler fan, even when he was like drafted, before he even played, even before Jimmy Butler was Jimmy Butler. My brother was a huge fan of Jimmy Butler. But anyway, Jimmy Butler, like you said, became the next best thing. So with Derrick's injury, and with Derrick's, lack of being able to play not just complete seasons, but half of seasons, you have Jimmy Butler. Now you have to make a business decision. People forget that basketball is a business decision, to move on from him. You build around Jimmy Butler, who's already proven that he can defend, hit the outside shot. He's got the athleticism. He's got everything. But in order to do so and properly build around him, you have to unload Derrick Rose, the player with the most value on your team. So it pissed me off a little bit, because the thing is, Jimmy Butler went on to be a cocky asshole. Like, there's a reason why I will always appreciate what Jimmy Butler did for the team, but I don't like his character. As soon as Derrick left, Jimmy Butler became the biggest cocky person I've seen outside of LeBron James. And I'm not hating on LeBron James. I'm just saying that level of cockiness. Because remember when he said that, the Antonio Brown thing, when he said he'd be a better wide receiver than Antonio Brown and all that, like, the fame went to his head, and we're forgetting this is a guy who was almost a second round pick. You know what I mean? But to segue it all back, to see Derrick Rose leave for Jimmy Butler, I was pissed. I understand what they were doing, but it kind of just heightened my animosity for Jimmy Butler, because Jimmy Butler will forever be known to me as the guy that we chose over Derrick Rose. Business decision or not, it's just still, I hate that we did that decision. So did we give up on him too quickly? No. I mean, at the end of the day, you want what's best for the team, and you also want what's best for the player. Knowing that Derrick Rose would have kind of slowly taken a back seat, let him go to another team where he could shine and be a better player. And that New York trade ended up being perfect for him. Played for another major market, played with Joakim Noah, still had his fun, and the Bulls got to waste away with Jimmy Butler on the team. Sorry, brother. Question number 4. I like this question. Somebody actually gave this to me, and that is question 4. Horns or thorns? PJ Rose will be just as good and just as talented as his father when he grows up.
Is he in basketball?
Yeah. He's actually
okay.
He's pretty solid. I mean, I think he's 13. I mean, I just see his little highlights on Instagram once in a while, and yeah, he's playing 13-year-olds. But I mean, the kid's pretty solid. He's got some good like ball mechanics.
I don't know. I'm gonna say thorns, because it never works out. Players' kids are never better than, like, the only one I take that back. There is one player that they are better than their dad, and it's Stephen Curry.
Stephen Curry, yep. Or Michael Thompson.
Yeah. How often is that?
Yeah,
like,
it's rare.
It's so rare that a kid's they're better than their dad or their parents. It's just I don't see it happening.
Yeah.
So Thorns, I hope he plays well. I hope he's a good player. But
yeah, I agree with you, because here's the thing: like every NBA, like we'll just say, if you're dad or if you have offspring, if you are an NBA superstar like Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, or Michael Jordan and LeBron James, anybody who is just an elite NBA player, their children usually are never as good as them. Now, if you're an average player, like Del Curry was not a superstar. Del Curry was an average player, above average. We could put him above average, you know, and Steph Curry is way, way better than Del Curry. Michael Thompson, same thing. Klay Thompson was way, way better than it. So it's usually, if you're in the NBA as an average player, your kid turns out to be really good. I mean, we can even throw, like, to the people I said before, Scottie Pippen, because Scottie Pippen's kid is in the league, and he wasn't even, I don't even think he was drafted. I think he was an undrafted player, plays for Memphis. And actually, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, the move to waive Derrick Rose opened up the Memphis Grizzlies to sign Scottie Pippen Jr. Was that right?
Yes.
Yeah.
I do have one other player, Sabonis. I think he's better than his dad.
You know, that's an anomaly too, because Sabonis's dad, a lot of people forget that Sabonis didn't get to the NBA until he was older. Had Sabonis, the father, gotten to the NBA sooner, he would have been mentioned amongst the greats, because Sabonis was a beast as a basically an old man, and now his kid is taking a chip off the old block there, dominating out in Sacramento. So yeah, but usually, I'm with you. If you have a superstar father, you usually never amount to very much, but we'll see.
If Dan was on here, he would have brought up Sabonis right away. Big Kings fan, you know. This is going to be a running joke throughout the year. I'm just going to keep bringing up Kings references about Dan.
Yeah. We should just find, like, the biggest, like, average Sacramento Kings player and just start sending jerseys to his house. Just start sending them, like, Chuck Hayes jerseys.
JaVale McGee is still in the Kings. That was Dan's guy. Kevin Hunter or Herter. Yeah. Yeah.
We all had, like, and I hate to get off topic, but we all had, like, our secondary teams. Like for me, I was a big Charlotte Hornets fan because the Sonics are no more for now. I think you were either Detroit Pistons fan.
I wasn't like, I like Detroit just because they just need to be better. They should be better, and it just
And
I want Detroit to be okay.
And Dan's team was the Sacramento Kings, and of course, for his all-time favorite player of all time, Ben McLemore.
Now, Dan was a Blazers fan. He loved the Blazers with Terrence
Lillard. Robinson, Damian Lillard, Aldridge,
CJ McCollum.
CJ, yeah, he was a Blazers fan. Yeah, you're right. Yeah. All right. Question number 5. And actually, I'll throw in a bonus question here. Back to the PJ Rose thing. Horns or thorns? If PJ Rose gets into the NBA, he will be better than Bronny.
I don't know. I don't know anything about PJ Rose, so I can't say that. And I really do hope Bronny turns into a decent player. So I have no answer for that.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Final question of Horns or Thorns, and that is, Derrick Rose eventually becomes an ambassador to the Chicago Bulls.
I think
the organization of some way.
I think thorns.
Yeah.
It's not something that fits him. Like, he wants to kind of just do his own thing. Maybe because he's so close with Noah, and Noah is an ambassador to the Bulls. Yeah. But I think we start seeing him do some more things with like Luol Deng.
Yeah.
I think he's going to open some like basketball camps or something like that, but who knows? I just don't think he really will be, partially because the Bulls kind of screwed him.
Yeah.
They forced him back when he didn't feel ready. He told them, hey, my body, like he got cleared by the doctors, but he didn't feel ready himself. And they kind of told him, hey, you have to come back. And then that's when he tore his ACL again.
Yep.
So I don't know how much he really likes the organization.
Yep. And actually, I'm glad you mentioned that, because I'm going to take this opportunity right now to call out every single fan, so-called fans, who, when Derrick Rose said, hey, I can't come back because, I need to protect my body. And then the infamous, I want to be able to watch my kid graduate or be able to walk on the day that my kid graduates. Like, dude, shame on you. Like, in the end of the day, the fans need to understand these people are human beings. They're not puppets. If Derrick Rose said he's not ready, he's not ready. And I get it. It's frustrating because he's a superstar. He's your piece that you need to win championships. But in that same corner, if you realize that he's an important member of the team, why would you do anything to detriment this man's career and further put aside your hopes of winning a title? You know what I mean? Like, look what happened. You said it. He came back, tore his ACL again. So it's because of that push that we potentially ruined this man's career. Like, now, again, ACL tears are kind of finicky, where if, he could have done it any which way, sure. But at the same time, you force the man back, the man comes back and tears his ACL again. Like, how stupid do we look? So, like, Chicago fans, be a little better. Like, have some patience. So yeah, I'm with you. I think that he's going to be focusing on more life outside of basketball. I think I read somewhere he wants to do some like public speaking and stuff like that. So more power to him. Scott Berman, moving on to our next topic. It's one of my favorite segments here. It's called Ask a Horniak. It's where we reach out to the Bulls fans and we ask them to ask us a question. They get a shout out on the air. And our first question, we have 3 of them here. Our first question comes again from Justin from the Bloody Horns podcast. Shout out to you. Keep doing what you're doing over there, man. And his first question was, if Derrick Rose never gets hurt, where do you think he finishes career ranked amongst the point guards? Top 15, top 10, or top 5? He did provide a list to us where he would basically put Derrick Rose top 5, and that's Magic, Curry, Isaiah, Oscar, Kidd, and Rose. My apologies, top 6. So where do you think he ranks?
I don't know why he left AI off that list.
Because I think AI then later on shifted towards shooting guard.
Shooting guard, okay.
Yeah.
I think he takes a very similar career path to Westbrook with a championship. I don't know if he wins another MVP. Just because part of it, LeBron James got very pissed that he didn't win it that year. And he kind of took it to another level. Yeah. But if he stays healthy, you could easily put him as a top 5 point guard.
Yeah.
I still think Curry's game was much more versatile. If Derrick learned to work on the 3 a bit more, I think he would be up there. He would be even better, but his passing he was, like you said, he was averaging like 8 assists a game. So it wasn't him just scoring. So he was facilitating the team. He was getting rebounds. He was getting blocks. He was changing the game, how you drive it. Part of it too is I don't know how much the game would shift to the 3 with point guards if he stayed healthy, because it kind of shift to, hey, look what Curry's doing.
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
Lillard came in as he was doing both, and same with Westbrook, and then they shifted to shooting the three. Do they, if Derrick's still in the league, still doing those floaters, still driving, does he do it? I think he's similar to, where do you put Kyrie? Is Kyrie a top 10? Because I would say wherever Kyrie is, that's Derrick. Because Kyrie has how many championships? Two. I think one or two.
Oh, one.
But
one.
I would say I don't know. I don't know. It's hard.
Yeah.
Because
I wouldn't put
how
Kyrie
long can
top 10.
How long can your speed keep up? Like, it failed Westbrook kind of, but he got hurt too. Shit. So I don't know.
Yeah. It's a
top
difficult.
5. Yeah. So I'm going to say yes, top 5. But
Definitely.
I think his game would have switched more towards the 3 just because of how much success Curry had.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm with you. Like let's take the first 5 players that he has ranked: Magic, Curry, Isaiah, and Oscar, and Jason Kidd. I really don't think anyone will knock off Magic Johnson. I don't think anyone will ever knock off Isaiah Thomas. And Oscar Robertson was just, the man was insane. The fact that he's even mentioned as 4th all time is, you know what I mean? That just goes to show you how powerful the point guard position was. And then Jason Kidd, I think the only real player on this list he could have surpassed would have been a Jason Kidd. Jason Kidd Jason Kidd was a very, very good point guard. Obviously, he's good enough to be top 5 of all time. But Jason Kidd, I feel like, was the most achievable because Jason Kidd was just a great, smart facilitator, passer. He didn't score a lot of points. That's the thing, is back in the era, like you were mentioning, product of the era. Back in his era, point guards didn't score points. Point guards were there to pass and to set up plays and to be smart. They were the floor general. Your job was to get the ball to the player that will score the points. You know what I mean? Perfect example of a good point guard, on our team, Ron Harper. Ron Harper's job was to get Mike the ball, get the shooting guard or the forward, whoever's going to score, get him the ball, be smart, make the passes, and set up the floor. And that's exactly what Jason Kidd did. So to put Derrick above anybody, the only real player outside of Jason Kidd would be Curry. But like you said, Curry was known for shooting. So with the league shift into 3-point shooting, did Derrick have enough skill level to mold his game to stay relevant? You know, once the speed goes, would Derrick be able to mold his game to not rely on speed? So I would say, based on that, top 5 for me, I don't know. I would definitely say top 10. But then I would also not put Kyrie top 10. I think Kyrie had the potential to be top 10, but I think his antics and his attitude kind of hindered that. He's a phenomenal player, probably one of the best ball handlers in NBA history outside of Allen Iverson, but I think his extracurriculars kind of soiled his career a little bit. So thank you, Justin, for that question.
I would take Jason Kidd off there. Chris Paul is a better point guard than Jason Kidd. Chris Paul is the perfect example of a combination of a guy that can score points and be that old school passing point guard.
Yeah. Well, here, I mean, right before we move on, I'll just read off his whole list here. It's Magic, Curry, Isaiah, Oscar, Kidd, Russ, Nash, CP3, Stockton, and Gary Payton. See, and Stockton, I would even.
How are you going to put Stockton that? Yeah.
You know what
I
mean?
would put Stockton top 3.
Yeah. I mean, it's insane. Like, these are very, very great point guards. You know, some of them, you can't put them any higher. You know what I mean?
I would, Derrick, put him where Russ is.
Yeah, that's, in fact, and then that's exactly what he said. He would put Derrick above Russ. Yeah.
Yeah. They were a very similar game. I just think Derrick was better than Russell.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I think, well, that's to this day, you always see the comparison. Would you rather have a prime Russ or a prime Derrick? Like, Derrick and Russ have been compared to each other since the day they entered the league. Because I think, if I'm not mistaken, didn't they enter the league the same year?
Yeah.
If it's not the same year, it's a year or two after, but it's the same year, 2008, right?
Yeah, they both entered the same year. But the big thing I remember when Derrick entered, the year before it was John Wall. And everybody was like, we need to see this Wall Rose thing. And it never happened. They were never healthy at the same time.
Yep. Yeah. Solid. And you know what? Shout out to Justin. Solid list. That is a solid list. I can't disagree with any of the names on this list. That is probably one of the most best put together top 10 lists I can think of. So thank you, Justin. If you want to reach Justin and follow him, you can reach him on Twitter at Horns Bloody. Follow him. He's got a lot of good content. So our next question comes out to one of our favorite players, or one of our favorite person to get a question from, and that is Q at the Let's Talk Bulls podcast. I love Q questions because they really make you think. And his question is, if Rose never gets hurt and stays in Chicago during the super team era, what player do you think would have come to Chicago to team up with him in his prime? We're probably going to say the same player.
I think we get Melo.
Yes. Okay, good. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's that simple. Melo was basically about to sign. Or do we get LeBron James? Because LeBron James almost signed with us too. No, yep. Derrick was still healthy then. Derrick was still healthy, right?
Oh, yeah.
When he went to Carmelo Anthony is the answer. I think I agree with that. Like,
I don't think there was any bigger name back then as a free agent, because outside of like the big three, that 2010, 2011 free agency, I don't think there was a bigger free agent after that than Carmelo Anthony. So, yeah. And here's the thing about Carmelo Anthony is I'm going to get a lot of hate for this. I think Carmelo Anthony was the most overrated leader, elite leader, because I appreciate the man scoring, but I think one of the reasons that, and I'm not going to speak for him, but I think one of the reasons that deterred Carmelo Anthony from coming here the year that he was about to come here was the fact that with Derrick's health being in jeopardy, I think he would have known that he would have had to step up into more of a leadership role. And I think at that point of Carmelo Anthony's career, he just wanted to win a championship, kind of be led, not do the leading type of thing. Not to say that Carmelo Anthony wasn't one of the best players to ever touch a basketball ever. I'm not saying that, but I think at that point of his career, I think Carmelo Anthony was more focused on winning a title than having to lead a team with an injured point guard. I mean, you think that?
I don't know. Melo, he couldn't lead the Knicks. Like, we all thought the Knicks were going to be something special, and it's like, he just scored a bunch.
Right.
Him and Amari just scored a bunch, and they really needed a point guard, someone that could facilitate.
They had Raymond
I think
Felton.
that would have been good.
They had Raymond Felton.
Raymond Felton. that Raymond Felton. Have you seen him? He weighs like 300 pounds now. He looks terrible.
Raymond Felton. Shout out Raymond Felton. So thank you, Q, for that question. We love that question. Follow him at the Let's Talk Bulls. And actually, I want to take a moment here to kind of shout Q out for what he's doing. Q recently just took steps necessary to become a teacher for special needs students. So big shout out to Q. I think that's an incredible thing that he's doing to reach out and teach special needs kids. So you're the real MVP. So Q, keep doing what you're doing, buddy. Congratulations. Our next question comes to us from Juice Does Everything, the admin to our Discord. And Juice says, what is your favorite Derrick Rose highlight, and what made Derrick Rose one of your favorite players?
Everybody's going to say that dunk on Dragic.
Yeah.
But the real answer is against the Pistons, Lindsey Hunter throws a lob up in Derrick Rose. His arm is like at the top of the backboard, grabs it one hand and throws it down.
Was that the Ronnie Brewer one against the Pistons?
It's Lindsey Hunter throws like a lob up and Derrick's arm just like is so high. And that's when Stacey King says, it like freaks out. And it's like, I think he says, "Can you take me higher?" or something like crazy like that.
Yeah, I want to go higher.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Oh, it was Lindsey Hunter. I thought it was Ronnie Brewer who threw that up, but
I think it was Lindsay. It was number 11. I just watched.
that
the
was
clip
Ronnie
of it.
Brewer then.
Oh, was it?
Yeah. But yeah,
But you know which one I'm talking about, right?
Yeah, where he's like, stop it, I want to go higher. Yeah. That's your point guard Neil Funk going upstairs to get that ball. Yeah, that's a great clip. That's a great clip. And what made him your favorite player?
He made me love basketball. Like,
good answer.
The Bulls were just a team in Chicago that it's like, hey, they were great in the 90s. They're a mediocre team now. I think you actually got me into watching, because when I first met you, you were like, you look like Kirk Heinrich.
Yeah. You had you were rocking the Kirk hairdo.
Yeah. And then I was like, I looked him up, and then me and Dan started playing 2K. So we were like kind of watching basketball, but not like super into it. More of just like, hey, we might as well just watch the Bulls since we're in Chicago.
Right.
I will say this. I did not want the Bulls to draft him.
Really? You wanted
I wanted Michael Beasley, because Michael Beasley was so good.
Yeah. Who do you in college?
Kansas. No.
Yeah, he might have been
Kansas State.
Kansas State. Yep. Okay.
Yeah. I forgot where he got drafted. I forgot who was number 2.
Number 2. Michael Beasley. He went to Miami Heat.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. I wanted Michael Beasley. He was so good in college. And I was like, we have Kirk Heinrich. We don't need a point guard.
Right. Yeah. You're absolutely right.
But we also had Luol Deng at that time.
Yeah.
So it's like, I think Michael Beasley was he was like a 3-4 player, like in between, like
that.
So I wanted him.
4.
I wanted him, but I am so glad we got Derrick Rose, because Michael Beasley, he was good, but he wasn't Derrick Rose good.
No. Could you imagine the Miami Heat? I mean, it'd be a whole new story as a whole. And you forget one name. We also had Ben Gordon, so we had a pretty solid guard lineup there. But that just goes to show you, is sometimes teams just need to draft the best available player. I mean, that could be the player, and it was in this case, that turns your franchise around or just rewrites a whole story of a franchise. And I'm going to say this on record. I think that if Derrick Rose had never been from Chicago, I still think that I still think that we draft Michael Beasley and move.
Oh yeah, if he's not from Chicago, they take Beasley, I think.
Yeah. As sad as that is, I'm glad Derrick Rose is from Chicago.
What was the second part of the question?
That was it. Your favorite player and your favorite highlight, or no, what made him your favorite player?
I don't know if Derrick Rose was my favorite player on the Bulls. I loved Luol Deng.
Yeah.
Like, Derrick Rose was that guy, and everybody loved Derrick Rose, but I loved Luol Deng. He was just kind of there and fit the role perfectly. He was the defensive guy that held it together. He could just get open and shoot from wherever. I loved
sport.
Luol Deng.
He was a great teammate. Yeah. I actually I was really excited to draft Luol Deng. I was overseas, and overseas when this was back before social media. Overseas, you didn't find out anything about basketball, sports, anything, because we don't. Overseas in Italy, they don't follow basketball over here like they do now. But I remember calling my dad the day after the draft and saying, "Did we get Luol Deng? Did we get Luol Deng?" And he said, "We got Luol Deng," and I was just excited that entire trip. So, and then he turned out to be. And again, you could make an argument that you could almost retire Lou's jersey just for how much he's done for us. Yeah. But what he does off the court also never gets enough credit. What he does for Sudan, what he does just giving back to, the poverty, the poor kids that, he's just a great role model. He's probably one of the most underrated role models and good guys in NBA history, bar none. So, for me, we'll throw it all back. What's my favorite highlight of Derrick Rose? It's probably the highlight that I literally watch every time I watch a Derrick Rose highlight. I go to this one. It's the game. I watch this live at night, and I actually got funny story about this. It was the shot that he hit on the Houston Rockets when they were down by 3, 106, 109, down by 3 with a few seconds left, takes it up the court, gets it to Joakim Noah, and that was the Derrick Rose, gets it to Noah, gets it back, lost his dribble, picks it up, and Rose for 3, and then he fucking hits a miraculous 3 to send the game into overtime. So I ended up watching that at night because I worked at my dad's, and we got out at 11 o'clock. That was back when you could record the games and social media wouldn't ruin it for you. I ended up watching it, and it was at 1 a.m. I rewatch this game, and when I watch Bulls games, I don't watch them mild-mannered. I'm either all in it or I'm all out of it. And that was when he hit that shot, I screamed so loud that I woke up the next day to an envelope to a noise complaint under my door, because it was just the most incredible shot I've ever seen. It was so executed. Like, that was Derrick Rose showing not only am I a phenomenal athlete, but I'm also clutch as hell. So that would be my favorite highlight of him of all time. But like dunks, I'll be honest with you, I love Derrick Rose's dunks, but I think his layups were more for me. But probably my favorite dunk was that dunk on the Pistons, not the Pistons, the New York Knicks, where he did the reverse clutch shot, or the reverse clutch dunk, wearing this black jersey, the same one that I'm wearing right now.
The open court one.
Yeah, where he just, he did the same thing with the Celtics too. I just like that one the most. But what made him my favorite player? Just Derrick Rose as a whole made me his favorite player. Just his humbleness, his being from Chicago, his story. Derrick Rose's story made me a Derrick Rose fan. What's not to love about the kid? He's humble. He's a stellar athlete. He loves his family. His goal was to, take his family out of poverty and bring them to a better world. And he did exactly that, like, while maintaining just, little to no controversy. Obviously the controversy then caught up with him in his later years, but that's what made me fall in love with Derrick Rose as a player, And funny story is, I'm actually getting married next week. Shout out to Susan. But the day we're getting married on is 10/4, which is Derrick Rose's birthday. Happened by coincidence, but Derrick Rose's birthday is October 4th, and that's the day we're getting married on. But putting it all together, Derrick Rose just made me, his game, his everything. I'm not an athletic guy, but when I played basketball in the backyard or on the court, I always tried to be like Derrick, and I was never successful at it. Never. So, Juice, thank you so much for the question. He runs our Discord. Hey, when you get a chance, follow our Discord. It's a fun place to be. All right, Scott Berman, it's time to move on to everybody's favorite segment of the show called Mount Hornsmore. It's where we take a top 5 of our favorite things of that category. And today's Mount Hornsmore, only fitting, would be, what is your Mount Hornsmore of Derrick Rose moments? Highlights and off-court stuff. What is your favorite?
Obviously, the Ronnie Brewer dunk against the Pistons.
Okay, 1.
These aren't in any order.
No, just 5.
That game winner, I think it was against, it was either Cleveland or the Heat. The one where he hits it and just has no emotion on his face and jumps into against Cavs.
Yeah.
Who's he? Boozer's arms, and he's just standing there, just like, yeah, obviously I hit this.
Noah,
yeah.
Noah's.
You know what I'm talking. Yeah,
Boozer
just like
team. Yeah,
he just
hit it
like
over Tristan Thompson.
Had no emotion on his face. It's just like, obviously this went in. I'm just such a hard ass. I love that.
Yeah. Like that, another day at the office. Yeah.
There was one play against I think the Heat. This was the Big 3 Heat. He like cuts between like 2 players and dunks on, I don't think it's Udonis Haslem. It was who's their
Joel
other
Anthony.
powerful. Yeah, Joel Anthony just throws this massive dunk down. And this one, this is Derrick adjacent. Well,
Okay.
I get 5. So I'll leave the Derrick adjacent one for last.
Okay.
His 50-point game in Minnesota, the fact that he cried and was just so excited. And if you get a chance, go listening to the Jeff Teague version of that, because Derrick told Jeff, I'm going to drop 50 tonight before the game. And it's great because Jeff's like, okay, well, yeah, whatever you say. But also, shout out to Jeff Teague, podcaster of the year.
Yeah.
His stories are so good, but listen to that Jeff Teague story about that game.
Yeah.
But it meant so much to Derrick because it was like everybody was like, oh, his career's over. He's just kind of there. And he showed like, hey, I can still do this.
Yeah. Yep.
And then 5, it's not Derrick Rose. It's what Derrick Rose did to Stacey King.
Yeah.
Like, you watch Derrick Rose highlights, Stacey King is so excited.
Yes.
Like, watch any game with Derrick and compare that to nowadays.
Yeah.
And it's just so much different. Like, there's so much joy. He's having so much fun. Neil Funk, same way. He was just like, those two came out of their shell during Derrick Rose era.
Yep.
And how many good, like, catchphrases did Stacey come up with because of Derrick?
Yeah, we get you like
can they post videos to Facebook?
Yeah. Where's my poster machine?
Yeah, those type of things. That's my number 5, is just what he did to Stacey King and Neil Funk.
Too big, too strong, too fast, too good. Windy City Assassin, step back and kiss myself. Like, it goes on and on and on.
Yeah.
Yeah. Solid list. I'm gonna take a page out of your book. These aren't in any particular order because I don't feel like one Derrick Rose moment surpasses the other. But top of the list, I'm gonna put the game where he hit the step back shot on Brandon Jennings in Milwaukee. I think that that.
Oh, I forgot about that one.
Yeah. Well, that was the original. Let me step back and kiss myself. Windy City Assassin does it again. And the reason why I'm saying this, because Dan was at that game and Dan was telling me that Milwaukee Bucks fan, shame on you, by the way, were saying that Derrick Rose was overrated. Okay. And what does he do? Derrick Rose hits a game winner over their best player as a big, F you, and then he goes and he pumps his chest. So that's forever one of my favorite buzzer beaters as well. Number 4, I already mentioned the Houston Rockets. I feel like the Houston Rockets, the shot, the 3 in the Houston Rockets, that was, again, just the significance behind it. Number 3, I'm going to say the 50-point game, just because, like you said, the man is pretty much made a statement like, I still got it. You know what I mean? And just his emotion after the game saying, I worked my ass off for this. Like, you can truly see that the man loves basketball more than anything else in the world. Number 2, kind of a funny one. Okay. But number 2 is his first ever All-Star game where LeBron James, Dwight Howard, and I forget who the other person is, come out dancing and showboating, and he's just standing there like, whatever, like, hi, yep. Like, it just, again, it speaks character to what Derrick Rose's overall demeanor was. He was a humble, no BS. He just didn't.
Guy. It was like, that's how Derrick is just, he doesn't need to showboat. He doesn't need all that. He's just like, hey, I'm just going to be private and just like, okay, I'm here.
Right. Yeah. Whatever, I made the All-Star game. I'm but number one, my all-time favorite Derrick Rose memory is him winning MVP. And the reason for that is, when you are in a major city like Chicago and you have the history of Michael Jordan, we went through 20 years of nonsense before we got to it. Chicago, I grew up with Chicago being a mecca for basketball success with the Jordan eras, and then quickly taken away by just 20 years of limbo of are we ever going to get back to the status that was, eliteness in basketball. And Derrick Rose winning that MVP, winning that rookie of the year kind of brought spark back to, we have a chance to be relevant again. And I think that what he achieved for the team and for the city of Chicago was way more than anyone can ever put on measurement. And if I can add to that, is his MVP speech where he thanked all of his talents to his mom and like his family pushing him. And despite their hardships and despite how bad their life was at the time, that they still found a way to prioritize making Derrick Rose the best possible person he could be. And just, putting his love for the game ahead of their hardships. And it was just incredible. I highly recommend, if anyone has not listened to it yet, Derrick Rose has like a 3-hour interview where he's in like a barber shop. I don't know who he's talking to, but where he kind of sheds light on his upbringing and his like controversies and everything. If you are a Derrick Rose fan or just a basketball fan or a fan of like Cinderella stories in general, go listen to that interview. I've listened to it a couple times already. That's how good it is. And you really open your eyes to Derrick Rose. And also, if you want to know more about Derrick Rose, he's also got a book. I have it there. Go out and buy it. That's actually a good read. It's a quick read, 200 pages, and it's really good. So, Scott Berman, we have reached the absolute end to our podcast. It's a sad, sad time, especially it feels even sadder because I was really excited about this Derrick Rose episode, and now it's coming to a close. So what do you got for everybody before we take off?
I don't have much this week. Nothing to complain about this week. The season hasn't started. Yeah, well, the season hasn't started, so I don't get depressed about that.
No, yeah, not yet. I'm hoping this is the year that like there's no expectation for the Bulls, but then we ended up doing good.
That'd be great. But again,
I want a draft pick.
It doesn't matter. I don't trust our GM enough to draft. I did just hear recently that John Paxton is still part of the organization. Why is that a thing? Why? Because
John Paxton is the king of putting scapegoats. Like, okay. I'm not the GM. Gar Forman's the GM. Like, I'm the vice president of basketball organization. He's the one making all the decisions. I'm not. No, fire him, not me. So
yeah,
that's why you still see John Paxson, because he's the king of. He's the Houdini of keeping his job. So, you got nothing? All right.
No. Congratulations on getting married.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, we're excited about that. I'm nervous. I've never been married. Yeah. Well, that too. I'm gonna try to only do it once, but thank you. We're nervous about it. It's next week. We're just tightening down everything and hoping that everybody who comes out enjoys themselves. We plan this wedding more out of our own mindset for ourselves than more for. It's kind of like a thank you to everyone who's been in our lives. You know what I mean? That's the thing about weddings. Like, I've been a part of weddings where they're like, it's me, it's about me, it's about us, but weddings for me is always a thank you for the guests who come, because the guests are really who makes the bride and the groom. Like without the positive influence of the people who attend the wedding, like the bride and the groom wouldn't exist. You know what I mean? So I'm hoping that we can communicate that throughout the night, and hopefully it's a smooth night for everybody. Although I already know it's going to be a cluster hell. So, well, if that being said, from all of us here at the Horns Over Hoops studio, we hope you enjoyed the cast. Give us a subscribe, follow us on our YouTube and our TikTok pages. We're posting shorts like crazy. We like posting those shorts. They're a quick way to get information out towards you, and we're getting some positive feedback for it. Join our Discord. Juice Does Everything has been doing a phenomenal job updating that Discord, and it's really a fun place to be. Follow us on Twitter to hear all of our status updates. We talk a lot on there as soon as the season starts. Season is right around the corner and starts in early to mid-October there. So Bulls basketball is back once again. And if you want to be a part of the show, if you want to be a guest or a co-host for the day, reach out to us and we'll accommodate that to you. And with that being said, from all of us here at the Horns Over Hoop studio, we ask our Horniacs to see red and go Bulls. And if I might add, congratulations, Derrick Rose.